Also, what we're going to try and do, if it works, we're going to try and record it. So then afterwards, if you missed some of it or whoever wasn't able to get here, or people had different appointments, that they could watch it after, get information. Hey, Andrew made it. Hi, Tony in Maryland. Hi, Oklahoma. Oh, Janelle, you made it.
Oh, Janelle's on.
If anyone doesn't know Janelle, a lot of people were doing Alzheimer's Mahjong for Memories events this year. And of course, because of COVID, ours got postponed. We were gonna have a lovely event in Fort Lauderdale. Those of you who haven't seen, we sell all different kind of Mahjong accessories, but our first product was Mahjong dice, and we have several different that are purple. And we connected with Janelle, and it was just kind of Bashert. We realized that the color purple is the Alzheimer's color, and Mahjong for Memories. There's such good benefits to playing Mahjong on the brain. There's been, we have an upcoming article that we share. Consumer Reports just agreed. So Janelle, if you are interested in planning an event for next year, or even just postponing it once it's okay to start getting together, Janelle Schatz is a wonderful contact for that. And if you can't reach her, you could just message us and we'll be sure to pass on your information to her. But she's been instrumental. Janelle, I don't know if you could text me or whatever, but I think, was it 25,000 that was raised last year?
Last year was actually about 55,000.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and we had, before COVID came along, we already had 20 teams signed up. I mean, so in early March with the events in the summer, that was phenomenal. We just, you know, were expecting to have a really good outcome, but we'll do it next year, you know, and hopefully this will all be behind us next year.
Exactly.
But thanks to everyone who has been willing to participate. And Darren, Donna, you guys have been with us from the very beginning, and you know how valuable you are to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know, Donna, you think we should give it more time? Or
yeah, I'm just texting people, I'm sharing and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah.
Somebody trying to reach us? No. So for those of you who don't know us, I'm Dara, and that's Donna. I'm like pointing to my We are friends for several years since our kids were little, and we started playing Mahjong together about 10 years ago. I grew up with my mom playing. Hi, Mom. And always thought that it was something that older Jewish women played, and I didn't think I was older. Turned 40 and decided, I guess it's time to start playing. Now that we play, we realize that stereotype is not the case, and there's many men that play, every religion play, there's Mahjong. I mean, I didn't even know how many styles there were across the world. So that is something that we really explore on our Facebook group. If you're not part of it, come join us. It's facebook.com/groups Mahjong Community. If you weren't on when we first started, that's where we share just all kinds of resources, old articles, interesting tidbits, great conversation. It's for all players of all levels. And lately, because of COVID, we've been sharing really interesting Mahjong on the Mind activities. So you could search for crossword, things like that. And the other thing we have is a YouTube channel where we share Why I Maj, Fun Maj on Fridays, and Men That Maj. So Andrew up here, I mean, plenty for Janelle, I mean, plenty of the people on this call have been featured in our series, and you could do our YouTube channel, Modern Maj. And the last thing, a little house, we just introduced, a little while ago, we introduced our Mahjong, which is if you take domino tiles and Mahjong symbols and they have a baby, they have Mahjong. So it's a great way. People always ask us, how do I teach young people? When should people start to learn? And it's a great way to introduce the game. And the other thing we just came out with was our replica enrobed Mahjong set. So that is our business spiel, but the rest of this is all for introducing Karen. Many of you have heard of searching for Bobby Fischer in chess, and Karen is searching for Bubby Fischer. So she's a well-known author of Searching for Bubby Fischer and other Mahjong table talk books, and we will now turn it over to Karen.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Some of you have heard this spiel before. I'm happy to see you again, but hopefully I'll bring a little bit new that you haven't heard from previous lectures. I think I'm somewhat limited on time. I saw something about a 40-minute. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Do we only have 40 minutes? Okay, so I'm going to cut right to the chase. What I'm going to talk about today are the psychological benefits of Mahjong. And there are 3 numbers I want you to remember for my lecture. The numbers are 3, 20, and 70. So first is 3. In a non-COVID time, I would say there are 3 main psychological benefits of Mahjong. Right now, I'd say it's 2.5. So the first one is cognitive. I think we all know what a great mental challenge this game is. I'm just going to hold up my handy dandy card. This is a great game for people to solve a puzzle and to think about statistics and to think creatively. What I love about it is that every hand you get, when you dealt, you get this drecky hand full of totally confusing things, and you have to turn it into something that makes sense. And it's a wonderful challenge for you. There's a time concern. You want to beat the other people and get yours done first. There's a defense concern that you want to be able to figure out what other people are playing and not give away with what they need. But of course, it's a whole creative thing for you to have to challenge yourself to think as creatively as you can about what you've been given. And I love that about the game. I also love that it's an individual game. Some of you may play bridge. My personal frustration with bridge was always, if you're not communicating properly with your partner, or if they have different expectations, it can be incredibly stressful. What I love about Maj is you are just playing for you. You can be as crazy as you want. You can be as conservative as you want. You have no obligation to any other player. I love that about the game. So the number one cognitive challenge about this game is the fact that every year we get the new card. I don't know any other game that's like that. In poker, it's always royal straight flush is the number one hand, getting 4 of a kind, aces beat kings. The strategies in poker do not change. Bridge, over time, the bidding conventions may change a little bit, but nothing like every single year the way the Mahjong card changes. The fact that we have to forget what we've learned and learn something brand new every single year is so good for our memory, so good for mentally challenging us. It is a great mental stimulation. So we all can agree, cognitively, great game. Second psychological benefit that I'm saying right now is only about half is the social. We all miss our Mahjong groups, I'm sure. Some of us play every week or used to play every week. Some of us are still keeping up with our friends online, doing the best we can. I've heard about groups that play one of the online games and simultaneously either Zoom chat or FaceTime so that they can still have the human interaction while they're playing. We're doing our best. The people I truly envy are couples where they both play and they can do Siamese together in the house, or maybe they have, kids that they're teaching to play. So they can still have something of a game. It's not the same as your regular group, but it's something, and you can still play. But definitely the social is a little bit far behind right now during COVID. So let's pretend it's not COVID, and I'll talk about some of the other social benefits. When you have a weekly game, you get to know your group really well. You can see if somebody's having a good week, a bad week, if things are a little bit funny with them. You can tell if they're upset about something. It's a great opportunity for them to vent. And I think that there's a rule that everybody should follow. What's said at the Mahjong table stays at the Mahjong table. It's the Vegas thing. You can talk about your daughter-in-law. You can talk about your problems with your kid's school, and you'll know it's not going any further. You can criticize a local restaurant or a doctor. Nobody's going to spread that around. It's just for your Maj group. It's really healthy. Another great social benefit, again, getting back to the card, is that it's an entree. If you know how to play standard National Mahjong League rules, you can play with anybody almost around the world. I mean, I've played only in Canada and the US, but the fact that I've been in Hawaii, I've been in the Pacific Northwest, I've been in Florida. Anywhere you go, if you know Maj League rules, you can meet new people, make new friends. A lot of snowbirds, they just walk into the clubhouse or the library or the local senior center, and they can immediately join a Maj group. Now this is one thing, I'll talk about it later if you have questions, but table rules are a whole extra level. That's why I always recommend learn the basic game. If you're going to teach someone, do not teach them table rules. Teach them the absolute conventional way to play, because they can always modify. But if you teach somebody that they can do the mush or if you teach them that, oh no, jokers can be, re-exchanged or anything like that, it just confuses them. Teach them the absolute basic game. Brief history lesson. Some of you know that Mahjong came to this country in 1920. Joseph Babcock brought it in from China. It became really popular with so many people, rich people, poor people, young people, old people. In the 30s, it sort of fell out of favor, but there were two main groups that still continued to play. One of the groups was the Jewish ladies, and they developed the National Mahjong League, and they had their conventional rules. They were based in New York, and they put out the standard card every year, and it was an agreed upon rules of how to play. But there was another American group that continued to play, and they veered off and did their own thing. And they were the military families. I'm going to be a little sexist here and say it's the military wives, because basically in those times it was. They developed a set of rules and a breed of Mahjong called Wright-Patterson. And it's named after the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And the thing about Wright-Patterson is that it's actually more like Chinese Mahjong than our version. They don't use jokers. They have something called a chow, which is a 3, 4, 5, or 6, 7, 8. It's a run like we have, but for them, it's a meld. Just like we have pungs and kongs, they also have chows. So part of the Wright-Patterson game is having chows. Another thing is they only change their card every 5 years or so. So they will print out a card, and people all over the world that want to learn to play or want to play in the military bases get the Wright-Patterson rules. And it was developed exactly the same social reason. If you were based in Quantico and you got transferred, your family got transferred to the Philippines, you could walk into the military, the officers club at the Philippines, or into somebody's house in the Philippines. You've got your Wright-Patterson rules. You can make friends. You can start playing with anybody. As long as you're playing the same version, it's great. So again, Mahjong is a great social connector. No matter where you are, it's a wonderful game to know how to play and to meet new friends with. So we've got the cognitive, we've got the social. The third one is the emotional benefit of this game. For me, and I think for all of you, the first time that we won this game, this light bulb goes on, this epiphany, this is fun, I love it, I want to keep doing it. You get these endorphins, you get the sense of accomplishment. It's just so rewarding to reach your goal. On the other hand, if you don't win, it's frustrating, but you throw in your tiles and you play again. And there's always a chance to win the next hand. So there's a little bit of optimism still there. The other great thing about it is there's a perfect distraction. When you are playing Mahjong, you are so absorbed in the game. You're thinking, oh, if I could just get another flower, or oh, why isn't she throwing that west? I really need the west and then I'll win. Whatever it is, you are focused on the tiles. You are focused on the game. It's a great escape from everything else that's going on, and there's a lot going on right now. So it's a wonderful emotional escape, and it's also cathartic, getting out your frustrations on the tiles and letting all that go and going on to the next hand. So all of those emotional benefits are really positive. This leads into my discussion of 20. Some of you have a regular group, you love your friends, but some of the players aren't quite up to the level of the others. What I say, over time, with a well-matched group, everyone should expect to win 20% of the time. There's going to be wall games, but each of you, maybe not every week, but from week to week over time, everybody should be winning about the same amount of times. There may be somebody who's like incredibly lucky. She got jokers all day. She was a joker magnet. She won every single hand, or she won about 10 out of the 12 hands. Another week, she might not be so lucky. But if there is one person that's going home, I don't know if you all play for money. I play for money. There may be somebody that goes home every week with her purse full of coins. And that's great for her, but everybody else is very frustrated. Likewise, there are people that never win, like 5 or 10% of the time, if they're lucky. If they win once, they're thrilled, but they just don't really seem to get it. So if you're winning more than 20% of the time, hey, that's great, but it may be that you need a little bit more of a challenge. I'm not saying leave your group. I mean, you love your friends, you want to keep playing with them, but you might think about a couple of options, one of which is find a little more advanced group to sort of raise your level of play so that you're challenged more. The other thing I really recommend is finding a tournament, because if you do a tournament, you're going to play against a different caliber of player. You're going to be playing with people who don't know your style. You know, when you have your weekly game, you know, oh, Lizzie always plays wins. So, you know, don't pass Lizzie the wins. I personally love soaps. My group never passes me soaps because they know I'm going to run with it. So when I'm in a tournament, that's about the only time I ever see soaps. So there's things like that where getting out of your comfort zone, playing with different people, you're going to have a different style of game. You're going to maybe be more defensive. You're maybe going to play different sections of the card, but whatever it is, it's a great opportunity to expand and challenge yourself more. So I say, those of you that are really doing well, you know, raise your game a little bit, challenge yourself to a little bit more challenging player. For those of you who aren't quite at the 20% level, there's a number of things that might be wrong with your game. You might not be Charlestoning too savvy, you know, being too savvy in your Charleston, picking the wrong hands. You might not be aggressive enough at calling for exposures. You might not have a backup hand. You might not be able to realize how to play defensively. You might make the simple mistake that we all make from time to time, forgetting to exchange for jokers. Any of these things is going to impact your game. So there is a way to build your game up and get up to that 20%. Buy my book. And if you're a 50 and 60% winner and you feel bad for your friends and you've got all those winnings from beating them so often, use that money to buy them the book. So either way, it's a spiel, it's a commercial for my book. So that's the 20% I talk about, that we all over time should expect to win about 20%. Now, when I go to tournaments, for instance, Ferns, I keep stats on my play. And the people at my table are a little bit weirded out, like, what is she up to? What I do is I take stock every single hand. What am I dealt? How many flowers? How many jokers? And what at the end of the Charleston do I think I'm playing? So like I'll make a note to myself. I might say Q3, I'm playing the third quint hand. Or CR5, I'm playing the fifth consecutive run hand. And that's just what I think I'm playing at the beginning of the game. By the end of the game, things could change dramatically. Like I might have thought I was playing singles and pairs because I had no jokers. But by the end of the game, I've picked up 4 jokers and now I'm in a quint hand. So it's interesting to see, I write down what I had at the end versus the beginning, what hand I played versus what I thought at the end of the Charleston. And what I found is my hand changes 50% of the time. So a lot of the time, your hand is going to evolve based on the tiles you get. But the other thing I noticed, and I'm really proud of this, I consider tournament players to be, I consider myself a tournament level player. And I found that because of wall games, I am not losing 50% of the time. When I say 20%, you'd say, okay, I win 20 and 20% is wall games. That's what I would expect, is about a 40% not lose rate. But at tournaments, I've been doing not lose 50%. So I consider that above average. I'm very happy about that. Anyway, that's me with stats. At the end of the lecture, or maybe I can ask the ladies to put it up, I'll link to my blog. I have all sorts of articles about statistics that I've taken at tournaments. And I talk about how to learn the new card. There's all sorts of things in my blog if you're interested in that kind of stuff. I'm a numbers nerd, so I enjoy that. Some of you might like it too. So now I'm going to get to the 70, which is the crux of what the Booby Book is and who I am. What I find and what I found with playing with everybody is how much of this game is luck. You know, this is not as smart as you can be and as experienced as you can be. There is a huge amount of luck in this game. I like to say it's 70% luck. I mean, we don't see 3/4 of the tiles. We're not dealt them. We don't pick them up. We only see 1 out of every 4 tiles when we pick it up. If we're lucky, we're in a position to call for something when it's thrown. But there are so many tiles that come and go that we have no contact with. We can't have it. Somebody might be holding that tile we want in their rack for no good reason. They just never threw it. So there's just things that are totally out of our control. And I consider that 70%. But if 70% is luck, that means that 30% is not. And that is the skill aspect. What can we do with our 30%? So the #1 lesson from the Booby Book is luck favors the prepared mind. It sounds like a fortune cookie. The idea is the better prepared you are for what could fall your way, the better you'll be ready to use that tile when it comes to you. You will be ready for luck to happen. It doesn't just happen by accident. You've seen players that have picked up 6 jokers and still lost. They didn't know what to do with them. They hadn't planned for it. And boy, oh boy, they are just so flummoxed. They don't know how to switch up their hand and fix it. And so 6 jokers went nowhere. So the point is, even any of us, we might be tied into a hand by the time we pick up that last joker. There's nothing we can do. But if we study the card and understand the game and think creatively, we can be as well prepared as up to that top 30% as we can be, so that if those lucky things happen, we're ready for it. So the number one thing about preparing is learning the card. So in the Booby book and in my blogs, I talk about how to learn the card quickly, how to think about the card constructively, how to figure out how different hands interact so you can switch hands, how to read what other people are playing so you can play defensively against them. I mean, I've been in tournaments where it was clear that this woman needed two more soaps and then she'd be done. I had the 2 soaps. I had to switch up my hand so I didn't throw her one of the soaps. And I ended up bringing it to a wall game. But to me, that was a victory because I didn't lose. But being prepared and understanding what she was doing, I switched up my hand so that she could not win. Playing defensively is as important as picking a good hand for yourself sometimes. So anyway, those are the main things I want you to take away from this: the cognitive, social, and emotional aspects of the game, how great they are for us. The fact that you and your friends should each only expect to win about 20% of the time, so don't get bent out of shape if you're having a bad day. And 70% of this is luck, so get yourself up to that 30%. Be as strong a prepared player as you can be. And in order to do that, I do recommend buying my book, or at least checking out my blog, which is free. Check out the blog, see what you can pick up from it. I have told people that this book was originally written with a player, you know how on toys it says this toy is for ages 8 and up, this toy is whatever. I always say this book was originally written for players from 6 months to 4 years of experience. But on the other hand, very veteran players have told me, oh, it's upgraded. Yay, unlimited minutes. Hooray for us. Okay, so what I was going to say, this book was written for the 6 month to 4 year experienced players, but even very veteran players have seen things in the book that they hadn't expected. And certainly in the blog, I bring up things that people had never thought of. So it's worth reading, even just the blog. Just get yourself familiar. Fern knows that I love to play. People that have played against me, though, know that I am not a poker player. I have tells, if you know what a tell is. A tell is when you sort of give yourself away, and that is my biggest weakness in my game. You know, if somebody throws the 4 bam and I wanted it, I'll say darn. You know, very professional. But I do have a good mind for the abstract. I call myself a Mahjong philosopher. So even though I might not be the best player you've ever seen, I certainly love to think about it and plan for it. And I'm a Maj nerd is what it comes down to. So I am happy to talk about any questions you might have. We can talk about etiquette. We can talk about strategy. We can talk about history. We can talk about tournaments, although Fern's certainly as good as I am at talking about tournaments. But anyway, any questions you might have. I'm going to real quick look through the questions that you all posted, and then after that we'll open it up for regular questions.
There's a few. One of the first ones I think was us. Do you find the East, and this, I mean, Fern can chime in too, but do you find that East has a big advantage, which Andrew was nice enough to answer, because a lot of times East are experienced players that bring their set, but at tournaments, do you find that East being dealt 14 tiles has an advantage?
No, because we each get to be East one time in each round. You know, each person rotates and gets to be East for one hand. What I did find, this was a terrible thing at one of my tournaments. We had a woman who brought black tiles, and a lot of the players couldn't read them. And I said, you can't do that. We're never having green tiles or black tiles again. You have to have easy to read tiles. Because she was, you know, beating everybody because she could read her tiles. I also make sure that people show us your joker, your 1 bam, and a couple of your flowers, and your dragons too, because some people get confused. Because the owner of the set is going to have an advantage.
We were at a tournament, and the 1 bam was a Jewish star. And if she didn't show it to us, I would have had no idea.
I would think that's a joker.
Yeah.
So that's really not fair. You really have to be clear on what your tiles are, or obviously that east does have an advantage. So yes, in that regard, I will say that an east sometimes has that advantage. I don't like it. I try to make it as fair for everybody as possible. Let's see.
And then the other question, we're talking about just specifically learning rules. So it's kind of a two-part question. When
Yes,
someone's looking for someone to learn from, a teacher, a lot of people say, oh, I'll teach you. And I mean, Donna and I, before we were in the business,
yes.
we learned the Florida, well, not the entire Florida way, but we learned with 14
14?
times future. So, God forbid now we can't admit that. But so now, because we wanted to be able to play, I compare it to going to a church or temple and being able to pick up any song and any prayer. You want to know the rules so you can play along. So
Absolutely.
now we play the NMJL way. But how do you explain to someone if someone says something we hear all the time? We don't need dice. We just divide at 8. We deal at number 8. And basically, I mean, if there's somebody in their group that constantly has jokers, they could be high. People always say, oh, no. But they could be.
No, you are right. You are right. That is one of the main reasons why we split the wall by rolling it, because it randomizes it. No, about the joke and it's partially true. That's why it's funny that when people call the league, if they say they're from Florida, the people in the league office say, oh, we can't help you. Say, we can't help you. I mean, table rules are great as long as everyone at your table understands them. But once you start using table rules, all the conventions, all the official rules fly out the window. So you have to have everybody start on the same level.
And
So your
also
question
playing
was-
online, you pick first, where if we played the other way, we didn't. So you have to know the regular way
Exactly.
to play online too.
And I would say 95% of tournaments are also National Mahjong League. I've seen a few tournaments advertised as 14 tile,
So,
but generally, and those are all in Florida, but generally tournaments expect you to pick and then throw. But wait, what you were saying I was saying about the randomizing, yes, you could hide jokers in the wall. The other thing is, when you're setting up your tiles, maybe not even intentionally, but you might just sort of gravitate having the tiles that were discarded. You might end up putting them all together just accidentally. So like all the wins are together. So if you split the wall, they're not going to be together, at least on your wall, at least on East's wall. So it again randomizes things, splits things up a little bit better. So yeah, even though I will admit my group doesn't play with dice, we just don't. But when we play in tournaments, we definitely don't fuss and we say, yes, you're right, we'll play with dice.
Right. And then the next question was, do you have a template for your data collecting that you do on your games? That was from Kathleen.
Okay, it's real fancy. I use hotel stationery, a little notepad, and I just make a grid. And I just, it's just a grid and it's cross-hatched. And I just most tournaments are 3 rounds in the morning, 3 rounds in the afternoon. So I just have 1 page per session. So there's like 12 games on one sheet, 12 games on another. And I head it like, F/J. So how many flowers, how many jokers, Charleston ? And then it's really basic. I'd be happy to post it on my blog sometime just for people's amusement, but it's nothing high tech. The one thing that I do think is a real help though is, like I said, use the card, refer to it, say, E6 is the 6th hand in the even set, or O2 is the 2nd hand in the odds section, just because that way you're not wasting a whole lot of time transcribing. You just have really simple questions. You're using how many flowers, how many jokers, what's your hand, what was the winning hand, how many, were they picked or did they throw, did they pick it, or was it a self, or was it a calling for a discard? How many flowers did I end up? How many jokers did I end up? What was my hand in the end? Real basic stuff, because the game's going on. You've got to focus. But yeah, anyway, read the blog. You'll see some fun articles about it.
Can you give a link to your blog? Can you let everyone?
Yes, I was going to say, if you can give me the share screen feature. Can you enable my sharing?
Let's see.
yeah.
Share screen. Oh, I think you have to do it, Donna, because it says host disabled screen sharing.
Yeah. Multiple. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Let me see.
There it is. Do you see it?
Oh,
Yep.
there we go.
It says Booby's blog. If you don't write it down right now, just when you're on Google, you just type Booby's Mahjong blog and you'll get a link to the blog. And there's probably about 60 articles there. Some are about each new card. So it's sort of, if you read about the 2017 card now, you might say ho hum. But I write something about it every year. So in March, late March, early April, always look for my new
Great.
card articles. And then in general, if you want to reach me, that's my email address. It's so simple, boobyfisher@gmail.com. I'm faster than the league because I don't know that they're answering their phones that much right now. So if you have a question, you can always email me. I do sell my books directly through my email if you need to. If you have a question, if you enjoyed this and you want me to speak to your local group, email me and I'd be happy to do it for your local group. This has been really fun for me. I'm going to turn this off if everybody's written down.
Yeah,
I
I
have-
will share it.
I have gotten to meet people from all over the country now. I've done California, I've done Arizona, I'm doing Tennessee later next week, just all over the place. Baltimore, Kansas City. It's been really fun.
This is a
Andrew.
good question there. Wait, what advice do you have to persuade players to not consistently stop the Charleston?
Good one. Who asked that? Who asked that?
It says private, so I don't know who it is.
Okay, I won't. Okay. There's actually something I talk about called Charleston karma. And what I find is the people that stop the Charleston most frequently are people that can't make up their mind between two hands. And it's usually rookies, like early on. Oh, I can't decide. I've got like 7 tiles here and 8 tiles there, and I just can't make up my mind. So I'm just going to stop the Charleston. They never win. Or if they win, it's really rare. That's why I call it Charleston karma. It's because you stop the Charleston, you're not going to win. If you've got 10 or 11 tiles, I mean, you're really close. And you're going for a singles and pairs hand. If that's the situation, you still could continue, especially if it involves flowers, because you can pass the flower and hope that it comes back. And even if it doesn't come back, there's 8 of them, so your chance of getting it back, picking it is pretty good. You got to be really set to stop a Charleston, in my opinion. Or you've got to be at a point where you just can't pass something. I mean, I hate to pass soaps, but I will if I absolutely am forced in a corner and my usual group knows, oh my God, she passed a soap, something's up. But no, in general, if you can keep it going because it's an opportunity to see 9 more tiles. So to me, it's really limiting yourself to stop a Charleston. Like I said, the main people that do it are people that couldn't make up their mind.
And then Andrew had some questions. He said, can you talk about Siamese? Him and his wife play. If people haven't done great.
I don't know anything about it. I've tried it once or twice and I'm terrible. So you're going to have to find somebody else to be your Siamese guru. I'm sorry.
Okay, then there's a second part and it said, talk about house rules. What are the craziest ones you've seen? Andrew's favorite was if the same tile gets discarded 3 times in a row, everyone changes seat to the right and you get somebody else's hand.
Whoa, I never heard that before. That's a really neat one. That fits in with, I used to write about the different kinds of Mahjong players you'll meet. And that falls into what I used to call the assassins, the ninja assassins. When you're playing and somebody throws the tile you needed, and then the next person throws the tile you needed, and the next person, and you can't call for it because for whatever reason, it's a pair and you're not ready and it's for your Maj tile. So wow, I never heard of that. So everybody rotates one and you have a totally different hand you have to play with. That's really wild. Never heard that one before. In my books, I've written a couple of novels too, because what happened when I toured around with Booby, people were saying, oh, we really love the stories. Can you write some more stories? So I wrote a couple of novels. They're called the Mahjong Table Talk Tales. And they're about people in a condo community that play Maj together. Some of the table rules that I put in that book were things like, everybody starts with a joker. Another one is you can trade back a joker. Say there have been flowers discarded and you really need a flower, or flowers have been displayed and you really need a flower. You can trade your joker for one of the exposed flowers and get that flower. I mean, really crazy rules like that. I like the one about the magic joker. No, but it hasn't really seemed to catch on. but I like to make one joker a little bit fancier, like put some glitter on it. And if you pick the magic joker, if you win with the magic joker, you get paid double. Things like that. I mean, there's all sorts of, I know of a group, probably, Fern's probably met them, you know, the ladies from Dallas that play for $100 a week. There's all sorts of crazy table rules that people come up with, doubling and 100 times their hand and whatever. Fern, you know who I'm talking about. Yes. Okay. You can't, that is such a crazy rule. You can't stop unless you don't have 3 tiles to pass. Oh, interesting.
I was at a group and they always played with a bettor, and the bettor confirmed that they were allowed to stop to Charleston. Otherwise, they were not allowed to stop. That was their house rule.
Wow. Well, in theory, I will say you are allowed to stop for any reason.
Yes.
Nobody can dispute your right to, I'm pro-choice. I believe we have the right to choose to stop the Charleston. But it really, you should, I do believe in the karma thing though. And if you stop it, don't expect to win. So, you know, you're only hurting yourself by stopping the
If
Charleston.
someone stops it, do you refuse to give them any tiles, even if you have 3 to pass?
I had never learned that before. I was at a tournament in Wisconsin, which, you know, Wisconsin nice and people are so friendly and all that. I was shocked. They were like, nope. You any. I was like, what the heck is that? I had never encountered it before. But yeah, now I can see the point that if they're ready to stop, then yeah, you can say 0. Personally, I will tend to pass if I'm short and want the tiles. I will exchange. But yes, I had never seen that before. I was shocked that somebody was like, no, I'm not doing any tiles. So
I have a question. Have you ever played in Florida?
have I actually played? I've observed some 14 tile games. I don't spend a lot of time in Florida. When I go down to Florida, it's mostly to lecture and leave.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I saw Fern's group, did I ever actually sit down at the table with the ladies? I don't think I did. I never actually get to sit and play very much. There's a funny story about a game. I played with a rookie group in Cooper City, if you know where that is.
Yeah.
It was a group of ladies who had never played before, and they took out the set, and we didn't really even set up the tiles very well. We just sort of were like, let's just play. And they started forming hands, and I was like, wow, that hand's coming in beautifully, and your hand's coming in beautifully. I didn't realize they had taken out all 16 flowers. So, you never know. But no, I don't. I've never played the 14 tile. My brain doesn't work that way. I think I would be just too stressed and just convoluted.
We're getting a notice. In case it ends, we want to thank you so much for doing this with us. We really
Hi, Joy.
Wonderful. We're not going to end it until it ends us, but just in case, you all saw the blog and you all saw how you could email Karen if you're interested in her book, and if you're interested
in any questions they ever have. Yeah.
Speaking for your group. If anybody else knows of anybody interested in speaking to our group, please send them our way. We just love being able to connect with everybody, make it a community. We think that Zoom and other online ways are just the way that we're keeping Mahjong on the mind.
Absolutely.
And then other than that, we are going to try to capture this recording and share it on both Modern Mahjong Facebook page and Mahjong community. So Andrew, do you play any other versions? Do you play Chinese? Fun and easy to learn, not as challenging. Great Mahjong community. Thank you. So do you play other styles?
No, I mean, I'm out in the suburbs. You know, you're in San Francisco. You've got the whole world at your feet. I'm in this rinky-dink town 40 miles from Manhattan. I don't even get to go in and play with Barney in the city because I'm just so tied to the suburbs. So, no, very conventional. I did buy the Wright Patterson rules, but even that I don't really play with anybody.
You know, what's interesting about Michelle Frizzell, we've spoken to her many times and interviewed her. She lives pretty remotely and has to drive an hour just to play a game in person with people. And her knowledge is amazing, but it was interesting that she doesn't really get to play with a lot of people in person.
Yeah, I mean, in some regards, having an online version is a real godsend. I mean, it keeps your skills up. But yeah, the social is so important to this game. That's why tournaments are great. You meet new people, and it's a lot of fun meeting new people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have any questions? You could raise your hand. We could have you speak it, or you could type it. How many people like playing online? I love it. I think a lot of people are getting a little burnt out from it lately. I've noticed. I think a lot has to do with whether you like the game itself or you like the socialization of playing with your regular group. A lot of times, if I just want to shut my brain off at the end of the day, I could just sit and play with bots, and that's just my decompressing time.
Yeah, and for me, I get interrupted. Mom, my husband's working from home. The dog needs to go out. The gardener, I don't enjoy playing online that much just because of all the interruptions. Where when I go out to someone's house, it's my time and,
Totally with you on that. Totally
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think it's given the option of just keeping people connected to the game. I mean, and I also think the groups that actually we were going to do it later this afternoon, Don and I with two of our friends are going to play virtually, and we're going to Zoom as we play. And so James just said he uses WhatUp while we play. Exactly, James. So I think that definitely takes people to the more social aspect of it and kind of makes it much more of a connection, makes it feel,
Yeah, more
close.
normal. Yeah, we were even thinking about
face still if you're going to do it on FaceTime or WhatsApp. Some of our friends don't have good poker faces, like you said.
It's the worst. No, my group was talking about that we might even all get together and play outside with the virtual game, but so we're not touching, but we can still talk, but we're all doing it on our little screens. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it'd just be nice to get together.
Yeah.
I mean, for Florida, it's just too hot and humid and rainy. So
I'm outside for this. It is hot.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But a lot of people are doing that and they enjoy it. So.
Yeah, Andrew, good point. The online tournaments, Andrew said the online tournaments are a good chance for people to try a tournament if they're afraid in person. Yeah, it was definitely, for those of you who haven't had tournament play, and I don't know, Karen, if you could speak to this, a lot of people are very intimidated. I know Barney wrote a great blog thing that's been copied and shared a ton of times about how to get over your intimidation. Do you have any tips on, once we do get to resume, how to get over that fear or what to focus on at a tournament?
Well, yeah, that's actually the first chapter of my book is about my first tournament. Well, maybe the second chapter, but how bad I was. I talk about that it was like a truck bearing down on me, 70 miles an hour on a highway because I was so over my head, so overmatched. Certainly practice playing more quickly so that you're not overwhelmed by the speed of the game. Don't waste time chatting. Tell your group, okay, we're going to practice for tournament play. We're going to play a little faster than usual. We're not going to take time to chat in between. When we're setting up the tiles, we're just going to focus. Another thing is just breathe. You're going to make a couple of silly mistakes the first couple hands, accept that and move on from it. Don't feel bad. You might pick out of order or you might pick from the wrong end of the tiles just because you're sort of intimidated. Just breathe and keep going. It will get better. You are going to win some of these hands. That's where the 20% comes in. You're not a terrible player. You will win some hands. So just, consider your first tournament to be an experience and that you're going to get better at it. What we do in the tournaments that I run, we actually have 3 tiers of players. It's self-reported, but what we ask people is, how good a player are you? Do you consider yourself, level 1, level 2, level 3? And we match them together. So we have like 3 or 4 beginner tables and I keep them up near me. And then we have a moderate level and then the experienced, the really good players. And if somebody in the moderate level wins, we immediately move them up to the experience because that's not fair. So for future tournaments, they're put up in the higher level. But the idea being that you're not intimidated by some really good players in your very first tournament. If you're a total rookie, it's very good for you to play against other total rookies, at least on a tournament. I do feel that when you're learning to play, it helps to have at least one player who knows what she's doing to sort of steer you. Don't feel like the worst player at the table, but also have somebody that can sort of show you around on how to do better. So if you're running tournaments, I know Fern's pretty much everybody's equally matched, but if you have the opportunity to run a tournament and open it up to different levels, it's a community service to do that, to sort of get people used to the whole idea. Since we're only doing a 1-day 4-round tournament, it works out fine. If you're working a whole weekend of it is too much. But for 4 rounds, I think it's nice to do it for the beginners as well as the more advanced players.
All right, so before we wrap up, are we good? Or anybody other questions? Once again, Donna and I want to say thank you, Karen. That was lovely. We really appreciated it. Donna, any closing?
And we miss Mahjong. I miss it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. See you guys all online. Have a
Thank
great
you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.